Is Karen gonna be here? I didn't watch last meeting, no. Word of mouth. What's good? Communication's good.
I know, it felt temperate today.
About which one?
Yeah, the classic 90s winter.
Yeah.
I could.
Hi. Hi. Where's Hannah?
She's on her way. We were coming from traffic court.
Hi, guys.
Hey, let's go, Karen. All right, 6:30. Welcome to the Tuesday, February 10th, 2026 Planning Board meeting, Village of Pauling. Amanda, can I get a roll?
Sure can. We have Chairman Ron Pfister,
Here.
Member Lou Masella,
Here.
and Member Mike Rendich.
Here. Lou, would you like to lead us in the pledge, please?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm going to start off with the minutes. Did you guys get a chance to review?
I did. I make a motion, I read them as well. Do we accept the minutes?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Good job on the minutes, Amanda.
Henson. Do we have Henson here? Is he-
do.
All right.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
First time seeing me. I'm Jocelyn Young with KARC. Kelly's usually here. She had a conflict tonight. So we were last before you, I think, in October. We held a public hearing on the project. We have since gone to the ZBA. They granted the 2 variances that we needed for frontage build-out and open space. And I think that was all that was outstanding on our end.
And just to recall, the zoning board also issued the negative declaration and wrapped seeker on the whole project. So that is not for you this evening, that has already been completed. So tonight they're on the board to consider granting the site plan and special use permit approvals. And just to reiterate, this is for the site as it exists right now with no changes.
Do you have a copy of the resolution as is written?
I have a copy that was dated from last month, but I'm assuming there were no
Yeah, I can
changes.
confirm that the only change was to the date.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. So I'll read this into the record, the board can consider its adoption. All right, this is a resolution to grant site plan and special use permit approvals for Henshin Dairy Incorporated, 112 East Main Street, Pauling, New York, 12564. Whereas the applicant, Henshin Dairy Inc., has submitted an application for site plan and special use permit approval to legalize an existing development on property located at 112 East Main Street, Village of Pauling, New York, 12564, which property is identified as tax parcel numbers 7056-05-210817, 7056-05-219835, and 707-05-226800. And whereas the property consists of 3 parcels totaling 5.14 acres in the B2 zoning district, and includes 3 existing structures, 1 commercial building, 1 barn, and 1 residence. And whereas the commercial tenant of the facility, Eastern Hay Corporation, operates a commercial retail operation for the sale of hay and animal feed products, and uses the 2-story, 12,253 square foot barn structure for warehousing, office use, and storage of bales and bagged flake shavings. And whereas the barn structure is located on the property was previously designated as an agricultural building for which site plan approval was not required, but site plan and special permit approvals are now required as the structure is no longer an agricultural building. And whereas the present application has been submitted to legalize the existing as-built conditions on the property and no improvements, construction, or modifications on the property are presently proposed. And whereas the applicant submitted an application for site plan and special permit approvals to the Village of Pauling Planning Board on May 27, 2025, which application contained a map entitled Amended Existing Conditions Plan prepared by LRC Group dated May 9th, 2025. And whereas the planning board initially designated the site plan and special permit application as a type 2 action under SECRA, for which no further environmental review was required. And whereas the planning board subsequently identified the need for the applicant to obtain area variances pursuant to the village code and referred the applicant to the Village of Pauling Zoning Board of Appeals for review. Whereas on September 30th, 2025, the applicant submitted an application to the ZBA for 2 area variances pursuant to Village Code, Section 98-76C1 and 98-76D8. And whereas on October 22nd, 2025, the ZBA declared itself lead agency for the purposes of, among other things, issuing a determination of significance with respect to the full action and deemed it an unlisted action under SECRA pursuant to 6 NYCRR 617.6. And whereas the ZBA caused the applicant to prepare and submit a short EAF, Part 1, and the ZBA provided entries for SEAFs Parts 2 and 3. And whereas on January 7th, 2026, the ZBA issued a negative declaration and notice of determination of non-significance as to the full action and found that an environmental impact statement need not be prepared. And whereas at its January 7th, 2026 meeting, the ZBA conditionally granted the 2 area variances requested. And whereas on September 9th, 2025, the planning board referred the action to Dutchess County Planning pursuant to 239M of the general municipal law, and the Dutchess County Planning responded on September 12th, 2025 with the finding that the action was a matter of local concern with no further comments. And whereas at its regular meeting on October 14th, 2025, the planning board held a duly noticed public hearing in which all those who wish to be heard on the application for or against were heard. And whereas pursuant to Village of Pauling Code 98-74, the planning board has duly considered the following special use permit conditions and found them to be satisfied. Rather than read those into the record, I'm going to state that they are listed on the resolution and are also available at zoning code section 98-74. Now therefore be it resolved, the planning board hereby grants site plan approval and special use permit approval as depicted on the plan and authorizes the chair or its authorized designee to sign said plan. I've now read the resolution. The board can consider a motion to adopt.
Can I get a motion?
I'll make that motion to adopt. Good job reading that too, sir.
I will second that.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Thank you very much.
You got all that?
Yes,
All right. Thank you.
thank you. Have a good night.
Thank
You
you.
too.
Good night.
All right, next on the agenda, 48 East Main Street.
Good evening, everyone.
What's up, Kurt?
Kurt Dawson, J Group Designs. When we were last before the board at the last meeting, Member Musella and Member Rendich wanted us to explore an option for the layout of the building in terms of where it sits on the site. So we did provide that to the board in this last submission. But basically, from this map here, what's shown in red is actually what was previously submitted. We were working through the engineering comments from Labella on that. And the hatched area here shows we've rotated the building to be parallel with the parking and also flipped the building so we get a little more relief on the front elevation here to see if we could just break this up a little bit. And I think, my personal opinion, I actually kind of like the revised layout of this thing. I know it doesn't follow the comprehensive plan to the T, but I think given the situation with the odd-shaped lot, that it does achieve somewhat of a compliance with that. We can get some landscaping, more landscaping in this area as we come down the hill, so I think that would help the project as well, and not have the face of the building as close to the front. So basically, I'd like to get consensus from the board on which way to pursue this, and so we can move ahead and
I like where you're going with it, because it does get it closer to what the comprehensive plan calls for the B1. Because, I mean, it still is the business district, this
Yeah.
building. You know, it's not out in a residential neighborhood. So, I mean, you are asking for an apartment building in a business district, or, you know, even on the first floor. So you gotta think of future. I know it makes sense now from the perspective of it's kind of like you're in a residential area, it seems like there, you have commercial property to your south
yes.
with that little building that
Yeah,
Kenny and
Julian
Julie used to,
Stewart
Julian
building.
Stewart's. And then you have just that wonky building that just breaks it up before you get to the church, and you're still in commercial, and across the street with the rectory. And it's that transition area. This is where I struggle with this one slightly,
Yeah.
because it is in the business district. And I realize that it does seem like residential somewhat there, but is it supposed to be? I mean, when they made the comprehensive plan, they put this in the business district for a reason. As you come down, starting with Colito Plaza, you're coming in
Right.
to the business district.
I have a feeling, and I don't want to speak for whenever the comprehensive plan was made, that was long before my time, but in terms of coming down East Main Street there, I think they probably extended the district somewhat to capture Toledo Plaza, Pauling Commons, because that was in existence at that time, so they
Right.
grabbed that. I think what this is from East Main Street down to like Johnny's is it is that transition area. So we have Pauling Commons, which has a good amount of commercial uses there. We have Julian Stewart Place, but we do have like the little houses across the street from Pauling Commons, the Earl Slocums and those houses. And then kind of behind this site over here, we have all residential uses. So I think it does fit into that transition area. So I think it kind of accomplishes some of the things, and it is in the zoning code that you can consider
Right.
apartments on the first floor.
Right, for the special use permit. Yeah, but the corner lot, it is closer. It would be nice, I feel like, even if the building was brought so much close to compliance as you can get, why wouldn't you want to bring the building up closer to the corner? Like to capture the corner, so it is like a corner building. If you're in
Well,
the,
I think we're gonna have a problem with sight distance as you come around here. You don't wanna put the building at the corner because you can't see past the corner, you're gonna hit somebody.
I agree with you 100% on
So
that.
I think-
It's a tough corner right now with no building there.
So I think we're just trying to keep it back there enough, and as you drive down, you will see that it kind of opens up the view shed to this small building, but then the church.
but the
is
church, right, there's actually a very nice little building behind the church that you see through there.
Yeah, so basically, as you come
Yeah,
up East Main Street, you'll see the church. This pushes it back a little bit so you don't get as much
right.
of the face of the building, and we will have to get a little relief here with the architecture. So I think it does, and we can get some plantings in here too against here, so as you come down the street, it'll help balance, the rectory and the street trees that are on the other side of the road. I think we can get on this side, and I think it'll get that boulevard feel as you come into
Right,
the village.
right.
You said this is closer to the comprehensive plan?
No, well, the
Right.
comprehensive plan wants it right on the property line. There's no way we can do that because the road's right there. So we cannot meet the comprehensive, but we need a variance. no
How
matter
far,
what.
how far off East Main Street are you now?
So at its closest point,
Right.
we're 5 feet at that corner right there.
Yeah, that's
We
right.
were a lot closer with this red line here, but we rotated the building back so that we open up this yard here in front a little bit.
So Rob, you like the fact that it's closer to East Main Street?
Well, I do in a sense. Well, it's closer to the corner too. I realize, right, it could be an issue with the traffic coming out of there, which it is. It's a tight little
Yeah.
street now. For two cars to even come in and out of there right now is difficult. Someone that's trying to make the turn down in there, and if there's someone there, you have to wait for them to come out. You're not making that turn.
Yeah, I just don't think it works with it set here.
I understand it. I get it, but if the more of a feel that it got, that you are entering into like the town, because right, you've read the comprehensive plan enough that he was trying to mimic that
Yeah, and I-
that European feel of a town where you come in, the streets are kind of narrow, the buildings are 2-3 stories as you go through these, like the passageways into this, and this is being the B1, it's what I wrestle with. Should you kind of be allowed, or at least try to get some commercial space in there, or at least set up that a commercial application would work for the future,
We don't
like
have
even if you
parking,
do
we don't have
residential.
parking. There's not gonna be enough parking, there's no street parking on
Right, it's
East
gonna be
Main
off-street.
So. there's
I just
no-
want to, right, I want to have the conversation, I want to at
There's
least try
nowhere
to
park
exhaust
on
that
East
part
Main
of it.
Street. So if you get into a commercial use, it increases the parking requirement of this, so you'll have nothing left, basically, for any.
Right, it doesn't make it, right,
And
viable.
and that's part of the criteria. First of all, at the last meeting, you know, I love those guest conferences because it gives us, and it gives me the ability to step back and wait another month to digest everything that we've heard, you know. And I would like to see it, you know, stay residential, but and I was guilty of my own advice that I give people when they come up to me and they say, well, how can you approve that in that area? We don't want it there, it looks terrible. I said, because it's in the code and it's allowed. It's that simple. I might not like it either, but it's allowed. And that's exactly the same thing with this piece of property. I wish it would stay residential. That's a beautiful building that's there right now. The architecture, you don't see it anymore. And now that's going to come down. But it's allowed in the zone. Part of the zoning code says we can allow the commercial on the first floor, and we could also allow residential on the whole first floor if we deem it necessary, because the code says the planning board shall determine such special permit due to the nature of the business. We don't know what that's going to be yet. The location of the building, unsuitable public parking, unsuitable sidewalk amenities. So, to what you just said, I mean, there's not enough parking on East Main Street for a commercial use.
There's no
public
parking.
There's
Yeah.
no public parking.
Right.
So that goes against what I would like to see, but according to the code, we can issue that permit to have residential on the whole first floor, because what type of commercial are you gonna put there that's gonna allow people to park off the property? And there's nothing there.
Yeah,
And
no
to your point, I
offsite.
think it does make
There's
that,
no off-site parking.
and it does make that transition between the edge of the southerly edge of the B1 into where you get to Johnny's and pull into East Main Street, where you do have buildings on either side of the road in the village proper. This kind of does make that transition, so that you do have some commercial uses, Pulling Commons and Jillian's,
Sure.
and residential uses as well. So I think it kind of makes that transition till you get to the intersection there, so that you're not, boom, there's a change.
I have another question too. Schedule A, B1, residential multifamilies are permitted, which we know. But it says the density shall not exceed 10 families per acre. And you want to put 15.
That was taken away with local law 2018,
Yeah.
Okay.
the density.
I also came across that and scratched my
I
head
have
and
the
followed the
local law
trail.
right here, 2018, so
Okay.
I guess I didn't read it.
It talks about
Thoroughly
density,
enough.
yeah. Look for
Okay.
the word density.
Okay.
And then you'll see how it all ties together.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll chime
Did I
in on
answer
this
that-
as
that
well.
answers that question.
At the last meeting too, I think, I was, said, I'm in agreement. I think the first thing we need to consider, of course, is whether or not it's appropriate to the special use permit to have residential on the first floor. And that's within our,
Purview, yeah.
yeah, we can do that, and that's an important consideration, number one. And my opinion on that is yes, and for all of the reasons that have been stated so far, that it really is not a location that would be conducive to a business on the first floor, especially within the idea of the urban regulations that really are clearly geared toward the idea of this walkable downtown storefront business. A business here, the walkable downtown storefront doesn't exist. I mean, you could potentially require that the whole building be commercial with a parking lot and do some other operation, but I personally think that it makes a lot more sense to keep it a residential, which then leads into, I think, and this is the discussion that happened last time, we need to agree on that first, that we would agree that 100% residential is appropriate. Then the next piece of the urban reg the setbacks, or the no setbacks, as the case may be, kind of run counter to what you would want for a residential building. You don't want to move this as close to the road as possible. You kind of want it to be away from the road if we have residential occupancy on the first floor, which is what Kurt attempted to do. And the changes that Kurt made here are as a result, I think, of the discussion we had last meeting. Because we were really thinking more in terms of, if this is going to be a residential building, we want it away from the road with apartments on the first floor. You really don't want apartments right up against the street.
No, that was how it was, that's kind of how the rest of the code was written when they allowed for that to begin with. You weren't allowed any apartments that faced the street. They had to be in the
Yeah.
back of the building.
Right, except in this part of town it's allowed, but yeah.
Right, and
But that's the decision we have to make.
No, and you make a very good point, because it does boil down to those two things. With the location, if the building isn't orientated to the street, with the sidewalk, which it should have a sidewalk along the street anyway.
We could put one there, just leads to nothing.
I know, well, there is a sidewalk in front of the church, there's a sidewalk in front of Johnny's, so I mean, the sidewalk does continue down the street past this property. So I mean, it is a continuation of the sidewalk, at least up to the corner. And it prevents people from walking through the property if they're cutting across. You're inviting people, if you're gonna do interior sidewalks and not have one at the
Well,
street.
the idea was, and for the site plan, there's a sidewalk here that comes up along here to capture these people here, to a point here where you have a crosswalk to go across the full system that's on the other side of the road, because grade-wise and the location of this building here.
I know, it makes it tough. If the sidewalks weren't already down the street, I would say, yeah.
Because this precludes, basically, you're going across a bunch of curb cuts and Johnny's, I don't think has any sidewalks.
Yeah,
It's one big
it's like-
open.
It's just, it's supposed to have one there. It's cut like there's one there,
Yeah,
but it's,
but there's like.
there's nothing there.
Nothing there. I
No
wouldn't
one's
wanna walk
walking.
there.
Yeah, no
I
one's
don't think you
walking.
want to invite people to walk on that corner on that side personally, but
No.
that's.
The sidewalk is also broken at that next house to the north. There's no room there.
Yeah, there's.
It's about 2 feet wide.
Yeah.
And then there's no sidewalk from there until you reach the church. Well, you cross the driveway first
Yeah, the driveway.
to the houses in the back, and then there's a sidewalk in front of the church, and that's the extent of the sidewalk. So if you wanted to extend the sidewalk all the way up to here, it would require, a crosswalk across the driveway on Liftlin Lane. It would require doing something. I don't know how you would even address that, the sidewalk in front of the little house.
Yeah, that's
Because
not really,
there's nothing you can do
Yeah, that's-
without
that's
intruding
another-
onto the road.
that's another applicant issue, that one. But for this property's sake, I mean, we put one out in front of the restaurant out by 22. I mean, probably should have a sidewalk, being a corner lot, and
Yeah, I
one
mean,
of the main streets.
that's part of the system though, okay?
Yeah,
Correct, because you can go all the way on East Main Street, all the way to the restaurant, cross at the little green there to the restaurant, and you have a sidewalk there. So that makes sense there, but this would be part of that system. And I think it's probably safer to actually cross here to get into the sidewalk system than
Than
coming
down
down
here.
into no man's land down here personally.
Absolutely.
That's a wide three-way intersection that you've got there.
And again, if we are to agree that, or concede, or decide that it would be a residential building, it makes more sense to me personally to, again, move it away from East Main Street, and it becomes a building as it is on actually, what's the road? The side road?
Spring Street.
No, Spring Street. Kind of, it would trend toward being a Spring Street building, which kind of makes more sense, again, in that whole residential vibe. It's a really great location from a place to live for the fact of being able to walk to the train station.
Yeah, I mean, it really,
Really
once you
easily.
get across, you can walk to CVS, all the buildings.
And you can walk to the train station down Spring Street. It's really close.
And again, I think we can get nice trees here, 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 to kind of enforce what's going on the other side of the street. We really have that LA of trees, which I think might be nice, coming into the village.
And again, that kind of goes to, the first step is to decide whether or not 100% residential is appropriate. And I believe if it is, then this was the discussion we had. Once you make that decision, it makes a lot more sense to move it off of Main Street, East Main Street, to where he's showing in the updated drawing here. That's my opinion.
Have you tried to like configure it with it wrapping more on Spring Street to some extent and having the parking lot on the north side? And really just having a lane going in, like more of an L-shaped building?
I don't think it makes much sense with the layouts of these buildings, kind of with the apartments, you kind of want to do a central corridor and flanking apartments on either side. So it kind of dictates the shape of the building a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I get that.
Because if you end up with an L shape, but you end up with a much bigger building with much less usable space.
Yeah, the site is just terrible coming up on that hill. To bring the building much closer to the corner.
Yeah. I mean, and I appreciate the comments we got last time, because I personally think this might solve a couple of the issues. I know it doesn't follow things to the letter, but I think in this given location and the odd shape of this front and the way you approach the site, I think this kind of makes sense. To do it kind of pull back a little bit.
It looks better overhead.
Yeah, and I think flipping the building, so we don't have this long wall on this elevation, which we had, and flip the building, so we have some architectural breaks
I
in
think
that.
it was like a billboard. It felt like you were
Yeah.
looking at like the back of the building as you come down East Main Street.
Yeah,
It's
so
just-
this, I think this will give some architectural relief as we come down the road as well.
There's actually fewer apartments facing East Main Street as
Yeah,
well
there's
because
two rather than three,
because you
yeah.
flipped the building.
Kurt, something to be aware of is that the village board introduced a local law to change the parking requirements in B1. The draft right now is going from a 1 per dwelling unit to 1.5. So keep that in mind if that
Well, I mean,
is approved.
we had an application before the board, how can you change in the middle of the application?
You have no vested rights in the application without approvals and. But I'm just.
So-
And actually-
supporting.
Yeah, I had that on my list here, Kurt, and it,
That won't work.
well,
That'll kill the project.
you'd have to reduce the number of apartments.
Doesn't make sense. And that's
12?
very unfortunate since we've invested
Yeah,
money in this on applications, review fees.
yeah, I mean, you have enough for 12 apartments, enough parking for 12, based on the updated law. Yeah, you could accomplish that by turning 3 of them into 2-bedroom apartments, so it offsets some of the total loss of an apartment, potentially. It's, obviously, a 2-bedroom apartment is not as much as 2 1-bedroom apartments, but it's more than one 1-bedroom apartment. I'm just trying to think of how to justify it, because I personally would be in favor of trying to comply with the law as it's going to probably be stated, which is 1.5 per.
Yeah, that just changes the whole parameters and all the numbers of the project. I don't know how, it just seems very odd to do that in mid-process here.
Is that all that the law states? Was there not something about a 15% waiver, which I
No.
thought had been repealed before? Well, I looked at the draft online today.
I don't believe so.
Because, I mean, what's strange is that that was repealed before, but then it's brought up at the end of the local law draft, and it says repeal, and it brings up the 15%, and then it says replace, and it says the 15%. So I don't know. Maybe it
I'll have
was-
to look at that, but
Yeah, okay,
yeah, I don't believe so.
okay.
I think it was just.
It would be odd if it
approvals.
came back because it was gone.
It is gone, and what the proposed law also says is that this board has no authority to reduce the number.
Yes, that was a conflict
yeah.
noted.
And that was that section that got repealed as well. So it's very, it's pretty letter of the law, kind of just saying 1.5 per. And you are correct, because I asked the question at the board meeting, by the way, about the retroactivity of it and when it would take effect. So, until it takes effect, we can, still, we could still
Well, you apply the law that's on the books.
apply the law that's
Yeah,
on the
that
books.
Okay, I understand that, but why would you go further with this application if you're not going to be able to get the apartment count? And
This is, I
that
mean,
makes no sense.
I personally would just put it out there. I mean, can you maybe do it with 12 apartments and make it work?
Changes the numbers completely of, when
Yeah.
you've done your business model based on X amount of units,
Yeah.
and what's per the code, it's like. and then
Understood, but-
you yank 3 out of it.
Yeah, it's
I will
not,
say there's going to be a public hearing on the local law.
there will be.
Oh, we know it's going to change.
Just
We
like-
know it's going to change, so it's not sugarcoat that one, but,
Yeah, well,
I mean, we provided 4 additional spaces to what's required in the code as it exists. So,
I honestly, I didn't think it could be changed while you had an application in front of the board already,
right,
but I don't know. So I guess sometimes you can.
just going in circles, but.
Well, the law doesn't take effect until it takes effect, and so as, you know, Kurt said, we can still follow the current law. I just think we should at least explore the idea of trying to meet the proposed law. I mean, that's the intent, is to increase the amount of parking.
I'm under the impression that we can't follow it. We have to go by the space and a half, am I correct, Sarah?
No.
You can follow the current law that's on the books because the
Oh,
law
we-
has not been changed yet.
Oh, we can.
Once the law becomes effective, then the board's gonna have to apply the new law, correct?
Oh, right, but as it is right now, we can entertain this proposal.
Certainly, but
Absolutely.
it's certainly a business decision for the applicant
That's just
rather
better than
than,
getting some-
I mean, we would have to process it if they wanna, continue, or, or revise it to meet that, proposed law, but, that's something for you and your client to talk about.
Yeah, I don't know, news to me.
Well, okay, at minimum, do we have consensus as to the building layout? So if we decide to pursue it, we could at least land on that?
I don't want to say 100% that that's perfect without really, yeah,
Well, we,
without going through like some of the, how it's going to be planned. It's still going to be staggered. I mean, it is, right, there's variances that are going to be needed. And it's not this board that you're going to have to convince how this building's going to look on the street. And I want to make sure the building looks as good as it can before it gets to the zoning board. As far as feedback tonight, that's up to you. If you're going to want to do more feedback, or if this parking law, if it's going to go into effect, and you're going to
Well,
be
that's
abide
one issue,
to it,
but-
like,
Well, first of all, do we agree that we're gonna have all residential on the bottom?
Right.
That's number one.
are we going to approve the special use permit tonight? I can't.
Discuss the factors.
that's not even an option.
Yeah, that requires a public hearing too, I think.
I mean, from the conversation that the three of us, I think, so far have had tonight, yes, if it's not going to be pulled up on a street business, it probably is not going to make sense on that bottom
Okay.
floor. I think we flushed that out.
All right. And do we like this layout versus the other layout?
I like it more.
Okay, so there's two. Okay. So there's 2 issues there, and then I guess we've got to resolve the parking issue. Can we, just to get the process rolling, because we're before the ZBA for this month's meeting, because they didn't have a meeting last month, they pushed us to this month. So I think I would need to coordinate with Karen about the exact variances we need on this, so that we can request the proper variances with the board based on this layout. And,
That was a point you made last time. You were asking us, what would we be satisfied with? Because ultimately, it's the zoning board gets to decide that, whether the setbacks are okay,
Yes.
correct? And of course, it helps the case if the planning board liked it, I suppose.
well, we want everything to kind of go in tandem
Yeah,
together so
yeah.
that everyone is happy, but
So I think we've established that, do we prefer the current layout, the new layout, fully residential, and the layout as shown?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I prefer that over what.
Okay.
okay, so I guess I can
First
talk
brought.
to you, Karen, hopefully just,
Yeah, sorry, just seeker, so that when they're before the zoning board, there's a coordinated review. We've not yet declared lead agency, the board has not yet declared lead agency, and part of the review is going to be the variances, so chicken or the egg, I guess.
yeah. I mean, I know we won't get a result at the next ZBA meeting, but at least we can get some feedback. And then hopefully get lead agency settled here, go back to the ZBA, and then hopefully make a determination. So it's at least 2 months with the ZBA, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would just, as part of your submission, and you have to anyway, to the ZBA, you need to include the environmental assessment form, which you need to update for the required variances, right? So then if you submit that for that, you could either copy the planning board on that same seeker analysis at the same time, or you could wait and submit it, for the
Yeah, I
following.
believe it's just yard variances for the front yards where the building is located, so we need to get the setbacks approved for variances.
We gotta look at polling comments and see, because there were similar ones, I think.
Yeah, that was building height, that was the big issue there because we were getting it from the street to the back
Yeah.
of the building, that was that whole issue, but that doesn't.
But then there was the depth one and,
Yes, but I think it's
Yeah.
90, or,
Yeah, I
I
think
think we're
that one.
below the threshold.
Yes, I believe the word.
yeah, and then the building frontage, the frontage,
Frontage, yeah, the coverage.
build out, I forget what the
Yeah.
first thing is.
90% build out on the front line.
Yeah,
or guard
build
wall.
out coverage percent or something like
Yeah.
that.
I think it's
Yeah.
90% they're supposed to.
Okay.
But so if we can work together, just make sure we have everything covered
Mhm.
for the variances. So I guess
Yeah.
if the board could maybe do their intent to declare.
Well, I think,
Upon submission, I mean, you can move to,
yeah, I mean, I think we
Authorize
need
sending
an updated seeker form. We
Right.
can't circulate what we have.
right,
So,
right. So upon,
Yeah,
you know,
upon
receipt of that, if
receipt,
the board wants to
yeah.
authorize circulation for intent to be lead
Okay.
agency.
We've done
you
that
can do
before.
that.
we have done that
Yeah.
before. Mhm.
And just, not to tell you your business, but if you're going before the ZBA anyway, and this local law is coming down, you may want to consider that avenue as well, the parking law.
Mhm.
So,
Meaning seeking a area variance for parking.
Right, so
If
kind of
we-
since we're stuck in the middle of this whole transition
Yeah,
period,
you're-
maybe they could,
Just keep it in mind.
yeah, I mean, it doesn't hurt, so, yes.
That's a good point.
How does that work?
So the zoning board can grant relief from the code, so if there's a strict requirement like that, if they can show necessity and no feasible alternatives, they can seek an area variance for that.
That's a positive, because as we were talking before, I think, I don't know, we would have to get legal advice on the retroactivity piece, but if the law went into effect before the site plan approval actually happened, we might be beholden to the law.
They are beholden to the
Yes,
law,
that's
yes.
And the timing is
Yes.
tight.
In the middle.
This
Right.
law is probably taking effect very soon, potentially. So it makes sense then to take it to the zoning board
Just
and look for the
another
relief
factor.
there.
Um,
Can I ask one more question, dude, about just the project in general? The neighbor to the east,
Yeah,
and we have,
yes,
we're putting, I think there's a fence and some
Yeah.
landscaping proposed.
yes.
Have we talked to the neighbor to the east at all? I would just
Haven't.
encourage that.
Yeah, we haven't yet, but I did notice that there's quite a bit of land, of lawn here. His house is over here. He's not that close.
Okay, I didn't know where the
Yeah.
line was too. That was another, because I wondered if it was
Yeah,
like
I
a
think you
shared.
mentioned, I think those are his planting beds, or maybe.
Yeah,
you
he mentioned that,
I think
yeah.
those planting beds are over here.
They're on his property.
His house is,
Okay,
Whose beds are they? Are they,
I think they're the neighbors'
The
beds.
neighbors?
I believe so.
and that's the neighbor's property too.
Yes,
Oh, that's
his
good.
driveway is not here, it's over, it's further over.
Okay, that's a positive. I'd still encourage talking to him.
Yeah.
You know, maybe give him an option on what kind of fence, you know, that kind of thing. Just because it's a major change for them, and, you know, because they're, yep, I would just
Yeah.
suggest that's a good idea.
Of course.
So if the board wants to consider a motion to circulate, authorizing the circulation for lead agency upon the receipt of the updated forms.
Can I get a motion on what you said?
Was that a motion?
yeah, I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank
Okay?
All right, Kurt.
All right.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Kurt.
I guess I'll stand here.
Yes.
Next up, Arch Street.
So I have the forms from the ZBA and the Pauling Joint Sewer Commission for the lead, for planning board to do lead for Arch Street.
And I will mention that we did get a letter from Sarah regarding the parking waiver issue. So to tell you the truth, I don't know what the applicant is going to do, but at least I guess if we can make this next step, and then I can inform the board whether they want to proceed or not, just to keep the ball rolling.
I read the letter about the parking waiver, and it talks about proposing 9 on-site parking spaces. There are no on-site parking spaces.
No, there's none, and it's either the parking spaces or a building. There's no, on that site,
Absolutely.
there's no way. So it's one or the other.
Yep. And looking at that, and I was thinking about that, just if there's no parking spaces, it sort of, with the new law coming into effect, short of I guess, a variance, that, a residential occupancy doesn't work on that site at all unless you have.
Well, nothing works on the site.
Nothing.
You can't have anything.
Parking.
You have no parking. You have no parking, so you can't have anything there.
Well, you can have a business with no parking,
No, you can't.
can't you?
You could have a parking with no business.
Off-site, you don't need
Well,
Yeah, you-
on-site parking
yes, you do.
for a business
Yeah,
in B1?
yeah. It's all part of the parking code, right?
Well, the new local law stipulates parking requirements for residential, but it doesn't
It
stipulate
doesn't change what was in the
Right.
code
for commercial.
businesses.
Yeah, because I
Well,
mean,
but what was in the code was that it's up to the planning board's discretion, right? So it hasn't repealed that aspect of,
Not for the commercial businesses.
okay,
okay.
all right. So I guess conceivably then,
Yeah.
you could have a business without parking, but that would be up to the planning board to,
Right.
and given the discussions with the planning board of late, I don't think that's a possibility. So,
I don't know, if it's a storefront business, a walk-up business right in the middle of the town like that, I could imagine how you could make a good case for not having specific parking for it. If that was what, obviously that's a different
Yeah.
project than one you
no,
proposed.
exactly. So I think I have to leave it at this point to the applicant on what they want to do.
Right.
I guess the question is, does it make sense is it harmful to the applicant or otherwise for the village to declare themselves lead agency because the circulation is complete, right? So that would be the next step in seeker, is that,
So it would not be harmful. There may have to be an amendment if you decide that the waivers are no longer valid as a board. Then obviously you're going to have to take another look at parking and see what's up with that, but no, it's not harmful. I think that should be the step taken.
so yeah, at the very least, that's something you could do, is just declare yourselves lead agency now that the circulation is complete.
And I guess since we're here, what is the temperature of the board basically of re-granting that waiver for the parking spaces, 9 parking spaces on site?
I'll just clarify, it wouldn't be re-granting, it would just be acknowledging that they're still valid.
Oh, okay, or acknowledging, but it is at this point to the discretion of the board, one way or the other, correct?
Right, because, yes, essentially yes. It is up to you if you feel that, it's still warranted, there really hasn't been a significant change in the proposed site plan in which those waivers were granted, or if you feel that things have changed, time has gone by, it warrants a new look. It's up to the board.
So by acknowledging that, we're not completely giving up on parking, like he still has to provide parking.
He has to provide parking to the extent that was required under that prior site plan, yes.
Which we had no on-site parking. We had waivers for
Which was a
all
waiver
11
for all
spaces.
parking.
I wouldn't support that.
I don't think I would support that either anymore.
Yeah, not a waiver, if it was a waiver in lieu of finding parking somewhere else. That's one thing. I'm not opposed to you using that back parking lot there though either.
But then that opened up a whole can of worms, I think, with getting that amended site plan going and limiting the use of that building, and it seems like it would just be a snowball effect personally, but I don't know.
You don't have to decide this tonight if you want more time to look at it. I know that's obviously probably not your preference, but
I would just like to,
Yeah.
kind of know, so I can just inform the applicant.
I think you've gotten your temperature checked.
Well, I think so. I think I knew it before I got your letter.
So again, if the parking is coming down the line, it might get approved soon. Would that affect this?
Yeah.
Well,
So if the waivers are still in place.
Right.
If you're saying that those waivers that existed back then are still valid now, then it would not affect that.
Well, let's say it's grant waivers, right? The new one?
well,
Not for the residential.
yeah, and I think it comes down to the point of the ambiguity, we'll call it, in the code. That it's been established that site plans do not expire. So part and parcel, those waivers were part of that site plan. So, and also, the variances were too, but talking about parking right now. The parking was part of that site plan that was granted that does not expire. So you know, I think there's an argument there too, it's like, well, that's a valid site plan then, because it doesn't expire, and those waived parking spaces were part of that as granted by the planning board.
If you were gonna build that exact same old project, right? Aren't
Which
there
we
changes?
could very easily, okay, so it was approved for commercial on the first floor, 1 2-bedroom apartment on each of the second and third floors. We're just proposing to make it 2 1-bedrooms on each of the floors. So the project itself doesn't change. If we needed to revert to the previously approved site plan, that's an argument also that we could present to the applicant. If we just hold the old site plan and just go with that, and don't change the amendment that we were proposing.
In which case, the waivers remain valid?
I mean, if you're not coming back before the board whatsoever, do the waivers remain valid?
If the plan is exactly as it was in when?
It was like 2008, 2009. So if we follow what was approved with that, with a building permit, can we start tomorrow? I mean, if that's the case, that's something I need to present to the applicant and just say,
Don't you have variances that expired?
well, yes, but again, it's like those variances were part of the site plan approval. So therefore,
No, because the variances lapse per the code.
I know,
So
it's
you
just
would
it's
at a
weirdness in the
minimum
code.
have to go back before the zoning.
Yeah.
Right, so, but if we could at least establish that the parking waivers were part of the previously approved site plan and doesn't need to be looked at again, that's at least one thing.
And what was that parking waiver?
It was 11
parking.
yeah, 11 parking spaces.
All parking
Off-site?
No,
No,
all the
waivers.
parking for the entire project was waived.
was waived.
No parking was required.
Yeah,
Correct.
walkers only. Or bike.
Yeah, I'm not gonna issue an opinion on that tonight.
No, but I think if we could, just so I have that answer, so we can move ahead, at least present that to the applicant and say, here's an option possibly, it takes one thing off the list. So,
So, sorry, just to clarify, the question is, if you make no change to the site plan,
if the waivers still are
the
valid.
waiver remains valid, but you'd still have to go back to the ZBA.
Correct.
For the variance.
So you'll get back to him on that.
Okay.
Okay? So are we going to do lead agency on this, or just to,
Yes.
Oh, well, I don't know. If
Don't
you're
decide
changing the
yet.
project back to something different, then it's not the same project that's
Well,
on before.
if he's changing it back to something different, he's not gonna be before this board at all potentially.
Good
Yeah.
point.
so we would do seeker through the ZBA?
Yeah, you would just do seeker through the ZBA. But I don't think there's any harm in, like, that's what I'm saying. There's no harm in
No,
declaring.
because you just restart seeker
Yeah.
before the zoning board.
That's fine.
That's the case.
I mean, Amanda's done all the circulation, and gotten responses already. If we can keep it rolling, just to have a placeholder at least, maybe.
Can I get a motion for intent? Or no, we're declaring, we already circulated, sorry. Yeah.
Make that motion.
Second, that motion?
What are we, we're declaring lead agency for the,
For seeker.
okay, for seeker. All right, I second that motion.
All in
And
favor?
then if it turns out we don't need it, we
Aye.
can just,
Aye.
you know. Okay? All right, thank you. More fun with minutes.
Did you get more questions and answers tonight, Kirk?
Very good, thank you.
All right. Do we have any other business?
We sure do. We have to release escrow funds for Hudson Valley Plastics.
Sounds good.
I'll make that motion.
We get a second?
Second,
All in favor?
yes.
Aye.
Thank you. That's it.
All right. If there's nothing else, can I get a motion to close the meeting?
I'll make that motion.
I second,
All in favor?
Aye.
yes.